4, 3.
We'll do it live!
Now we're live! Aaron Kennedy. The general craziness of it, the impact on your life.
We have gone through so many stories and we said, you know what? This should not be kept to the two of us.
Part two. With Diana.
I'm going to get the math.
Yeah. This is great because you have so many stories and I'm excited that we get to have you on for 2 weeks though. Let's just do a quick dive because what do you think was the biggest misconception that people have with TV news that is just not how the sausage is made?
Oh my goodness. That is such a good question, Aaron. I think the main thing is people have no clue how precarious a career in network news is. Like it just, you never know how long you've got. You're living contract to contract and you're putting out good work every single day, but anything can kind of knock you off track. Like let's say, for example, there's a change in the president of the network, or the person who runs talent development is different, or somebody else joins. It always feels like a friend of mine put it very well, like you're running for homecoming queen. You're like, me, pick me. And that is, I would say, more exhausting than the actual work of gathering elements for your story and like going on air and stuff like that. I could have done all day long. But I think that there's a certain feeling like you're balancing on a knife's edge, like today you're in, tomorrow you might be out. And so it's tough. Like, I don't know why it's done that way. I don't think it brings out the best in everybody, but you're looking at people who are on screen who, probably haven't slept in hours and have been eating gas station food, and they're trying to bring you the latest on a really important story. And they're also like, I'm coming up to the end of my contract. I'm not sure what's going to happen. There's just like all the back office kind of stuff can really impact how you show up on camera.
Oh my gosh. Because I feel like the second you start to think, oh, my contract's up and I haven't heard from them yet, or that new guy came in, I wonder if he likes me, then what happens to you on the air is also very different because you start to second guess like how you're delivering things. Who's going to like this? Maybe I should wear this different shirt. You start to not even be able to naturally.
Who are my allies? Is somebody going to, stand up for me or say we need to keep her? Like you really don't know. And I think it's very true. I heard once, most of the decisions about your career are made without you in the room. Oh, and that's absolutely the case in news. You just have to be like, God, I hope they like me. It's very Sally Fields.
So I have a question for you because I did do some network stuff, off and on for a little bit for Good Morning America a long time ago. That was more like a fill-in thing. And I did quite a bit at CBS, which was always where you're operating at your best potential because everybody around you is also operating at this super high level. And it feels like, man, if I'm doing good stuff, you're doing it really good there, But at the same time, I felt like I had moments where I was like the flavor of the month. Everybody was very Megan, and then it would change. And I wasn't given the kind of like cue as to how or why. You never really got like an explanation for why you were so big and important. And then all of a sudden, bye-bye. Did you have those moments where you were like the thing and then off the radar?
Yeah. I mean, I will say that I worked all the time. When I was at NBC, I regularly worked weekends because I would be doing the News One thing. So I was appearing on all the affiliates during the week. And then on the weekends, I was doing a lot of weekend GMA and weekend world news and stuff. So I worked consistently. But, the assignments, it all varied. Like some people got like these really plum assignments sometimes. And like, I think I was seen as like Chris and I were the workhorse team. Like no matter where you plugged us in, we were going to get it done and we were going to do it well. But we always ended up on these overnight shifts, and I'd be like, Jesus, again? Like, we have to be ready, camera ready at 3 in the morning again, you know? So I was probably very overly caffeinated in most of my morning show appearances. But yeah, like you would just be wondering, like, how do people feel about me? And there's a lot of poker faces in the business. It's really hard to tell. Like, some people are firmly in your corner and are going to support you. And then other times you're like, I have no idea how this person feels about me. And they have a lot of control over my career.
Or they say they like you, then it turns out they lay you off.
Yeah, there's that, you know.
All right.
Yeah.
Diana, share with us, please, your craziest story.
Okay, so the one that comes to mind, I was just talking about it again with Chris. Like I said, like, we're literally still besties and stuff. We were in West Virginia, and there had been a mining disaster, and we'd gone to this teeny tiny town in the mountains, and there was no Wi-Fi, like there was no internet capabilities or anything. So everything is engineered by the engineers. And so we had commandeered all of the local news and network news crews had commandeered this elementary school, and we had the library. We were sitting in like little kid chairs, you know, and like there was internet in the library where we were working, and then there was one hardwired phone line where we literally track our stories, send them to New York, and that's how we did. I mean, it was bananas trying to get this all done. And the locals were so nice to us. Like, they were bringing us food and all this kind of stuff. But along the way, I don't know what happened, but Chris got very, very sick. And we're talking like the worst poisoning thing he'd ever had in his life. And so he's normally standing by the camera holding, because I would do like 30 live shots in a row. Like, I'd have like 30 different stations that I'm doing live reports for. And they would be like, you know, good morning, Megan and Aaron. Good morning, Tom and Joe. Good morning. And then every single SIG out is different, right? Like, your Valley News leader. Like, I remember that one because I had to practice it so much. But like, your Valley News leader, you know, working for you, you know, ABC 10 or so, you know. And so he would hold these little white erase marks. So I'm waiting to do a live shot. I'm just starting, and I literally see him go like this and run away and puke. And I'm like, I still have like 15 more live shots to go. And I was like,
You're
okay,
like,
so
who am I tossing to?
I mean, he's literally puking, and I'm trying to do my best to like get through like the next 10 live shots and stuff. And he's in really bad shape. Like, I'd never seen him this sick before in my life. And so I call New York, and I tell him, like, I have to take him to the hospital. Like, he can't keep anything down. He's really, really sick. Like, we have to go. And I remember, I'm not gonna say her name, but and you know, we're still friends, but she was like, can you try a package before you go? No, we're going to the hospital. Like, my part of me does not understand this.
But that's
Like,
so typical though. Like, that doesn't even surprise me.
They could do. So I'm driving down these mountain roads. It's dark, like it's getting dark. It's nighttime. I have one hand on the steering wheel. My cell phone is on with my mom, who's trying to find a hospital for me. And I'm slapping Chris with my other hand, trying to keep him awake because he's going like in and out of consciousness. And then I literally, like, I remember like looking off to the side, and I see an H, like a red H lit up. And I'm like, that's a hospital. I'm just going to drive near it, you know? And we get there, and he was basically seen, and then they're just like, he's just going to need a boatload of Pedialyte. I was like, oh my God. Like, it was the craziest night. It was so crazy. And, you know, he felt better eventually, but he was, I mean, no joke, like, we laugh about it now, but he was the sickest I'd ever seen him. And it was just such a crazy situation, you know. And I was like, man,
the package.
I did not. I refused. Like,
but you thought about it. Like, did you think about it?
I thought about it.
I think I was just like stunned. Like, I was on the phone, and I was just like, no. Like, it's just like,
good for you.
Like, no.
You know, I
yeah,
bet though
that
Chris probably had a hard time peeling himself away from you, because we've talked about this before, how you feel so beholden to the people who you work with in the trenches, right? That I bet he was feeling terrible for a very long time, but he didn't want to let you down. So he probably, you know, stayed there until that final moment that he couldn't anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that he was really trying, and I could tell something was wrong. I mean, he had his it was fun. I think it was like around the time the 8 Mile came out, and he looked like Rabbit, man. He had like his hoodie pulled up and was just like, mom spaghetti all over the car, and it was just I knew he was so sick, and like not for a second did I ever think like, okay, somebody needs to take him. Like, no, I am going with him. Like, this guy is like my brother. Like, if he's sick, I'm going. It never occurred to me that I was going to stay and keep covering the story. It was wild. It was wild. And I mean, it's like, like again, looking back, we can laugh about it now, but it was not, I was genuinely like worried when I was driving in a place I had no idea where I was going. And like, it was like the Batman signal. I saw the H and I was like, that's where we're going. And
Middle of West Virginia, you've never been there before. It's dark and in the mountains, and God knows who's out there, Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Craziest viewer letter.
Craziest
viewer letter or comment.
All right. I needed a moment to roll my eyes fully because I've had my share. Craziest. Okay. So I'm going to go with, this woman got really, really mad at me. This was back when, we posted everything on Facebook. I'm not on Facebook anymore, but again, Japan, Fukushima, it was cold. And so I was wearing my red coat and a red hat, and I was reporting, and this woman got so angry at me, and she is like, you are so disrespectful caring about fashion at a time like this. And I was like, I'm cold. I'm not trying to be, I'm not swanning around in a feather boa. Like, I literally had a red wool coat on and a red hat. And she was so angry that she sent me multiple messages in a row. And at first, like an idiot, I engaged. And I said, thank you for letting me know. It's very cold in Japan at this time of the year. And I just, wanted to do my job. And then she's like, Diane Sawyer had her hair up in a ponytail and glasses. And, you can tell she really cares. All you care about is the care. And I was like, why are you coming after me? That was the craziest, because it felt so like, where is this coming from? But I had my share. People have written moo on YouTube comments on my videos, and like said things like that to me. And it's like, that doesn't matter to me. The other one was just like, I was second guessing myself like crazy. Like, did I do something wrong? Like wearing red? Like, is this a problem?
Oh,
I don't get it.
People are crazy.
So I think we may have already answered this. Most dangerous assignment.
Yeah, there was another time very early on in my career where I had a news director who was didn't make the best decisions. We'll just leave it at that. And put me in a situation where it was pretty dangerous. It was, I don't remember the exact details, but basically we were doing a live shot from like the front line. He wanted us to do a live shot from the front line of somebody who was accused of some serious crimes. And I tried to explain to him, like, this is probably not a good idea. We're out in the middle of nowhere. I don't feel comfortable doing this. And then he was like, oh, I guess you're just not cut out to be the reporter I thought you were.
Here it goes
I guess
again.
you just can't handle this, I guess. I was wrong about you, And I remember even back then, as young as I was, I grabbed a pen and pad and I wrote down the time and verbatim what he was saying to me. Because I was like, I am going to have to remember this. This will be part of some conversations I have to have later. And then I'm my intro and tag written, and my photographer Michael was setting up, and I hear somebody pull up, and like the tires squeal and the gravel scatter, and all of a sudden Mike runs back to the truck and says, we gotta go, Earl has a gun. And I was like, okay. And of course, like, there's a lot of tears in this podcast with you guys, sorry, but like I burst into tears, and I was like, of course I was right. I call the station, and I'm like, the guy just came out with a gun, with a shotgun. And then the news director was like, well, I never told you had to stay there. I never said that you had to be from that location. And my number one concern is your safety. And then I was like, yeah, but at 8:22, you said this. And all of a sudden he got quiet and he's like, I never said that. I'm like, I have it all documented. And so it turned into a showdown with him because he saw me as a threat because I told HR, like, hey, I was put, not just me, but my photographer, we were put in a really dangerous situation. And then I had to hash it out with him face to face with the GM. It was not fun. But I remember that moment, just like it immediately was like, write all of this down. This is not okay. This is something that you're going to have to follow up on. And yeah, so that was
the
great.
foresight to do that,
That's
right?
what I was gonna say.
A lot
I
of
mean,
us don't, especially when you're in those moments and you're freaking out about many other things, to have the presence of mind to do that. All right, tell me you worked in TV news.
You know, like, oh, you're not the reporter I thought you were. Like, that's so manipulative to do to a young woman who's trying to make it in the business.
Exactly.
Like, you're a jerk. So I'm glad I was able to recognize them and be like,
well, we've talked about how
cover its story,
imbalanced,
right?
how imbalanced TV news is because of that hierarchy. It's often very young women who are in a newsroom led by an older man. And then, especially if there's comments like that, which is very manipulative. Yeah. How do you not say, okay, well, maybe he's right.
This was years ago. I remember it vividly. Like, I remember word for word what he said to me. That's how much of an impact it made on me. Like, this is years and years and years ago. And he left the business like a year or two later. Like, he left the business. And I was like, that's best for everybody because
you know what?
he just wasn't fit to lead.
There's like this weird thing where the people who are sometimes on the desk and making the decisions about where you're supposed to go don't know, or maybe think you're lying when you say you're uncomfortable. I can remember one time working in New York and we were in the city and there was an interview subject that was up in one of the project buildings and the elevator was out. So we had to walk up the stairs every time. Well, they kept sending us back up and up, and we were walking past like drug deals. We were walking past people who it was not good. We were all uncomfortable. It was me and an intern and a photographer. And I can remember eventually I was pregnant. Nobody knew at that time, but I was pregnant. So I was even more freaked out. So I can remember looking at my photographer and saying, they just told us to go back up again and try to knock on that door again. But and he said, you know what? We're going to tell them we did. And we're not. I was like, okay, we just had to lie and just not go.
Yeah.
Nobody was listening.
That disconnect with the newsroom and the folks in the field. I remember once we took a producer with us to cover, it was, this is so Green Bay. It was the Packers versus the Bears on New Year's Eve at Soldier Field. And so, of course, we were sending, a couple of crews, and we took a producer with us who normally stayed in the newsroom. And I remember an hour in trying to figure out where we were going to park, he's like, oh my God. He's like, I can't believe it's taking us an hour to park. And I was like, yes, now you see like why sometimes things don't happen on, like you may be back at the station and you're just like, what's taking so long? And I'm like, it's because we're trying to park and we're trying to get our gear out. We're trying to figure out where we're supposed to go. And then we have to find people who are willing to talk to me, like it was such a great learning experience for him to see like the field is totally different from your
mandatory experience for everybody.
100%, because I've heard people behind the desk be like, I bet you they just stopped to get something to eat or whatever. And you're like, no, they did it. They can't get there. They can't
like a luxury. Yeah. All right. So tell us you worked in TV news without telling us you worked in TV news.
I have an IFB.
You still do?
I do. It's right there. I have an IFB.
What do you use it for now?
I have actually used it in my last job at Verizon. I did a number of things on camera, and I had my own IFB with my own molded earpiece. And I was like, yeah, don't give me one of the little like foamy ones. Like I have my own. I'm a professional. So for some reason, it's like the IFB is definitely, you've got an IFB, you work in TV.
Interruptible fold back if anybody is keeping score at home. Longest time on air.
Easy peasy. The Chilean Miner Rescue. I was on for hours. It was the best story of my life though. I'm Chilean. And so like it was like reporting from my home country, and I was translating, like they were singing songs when they started to pull people up. And they were soccer songs. I knew that like nobody else knew what they were singing. I was like, no, these are soccer chants. They're for the Chilean soccer team. And so I started translating them, and I'm emailing Diane Sawyer, like, this is what they're saying. This is why they're saying it. And they're changing the words to, to the rescue or whatever. And it was great. It was the best story of my life, beyond. And I have, it was yeah, this guy came up to me afterwards because he knew I'd been there forever. I talked to everybody. I mean, I talked to everybody anyway, but I was like talking to the carabineros, the police, and I was talking. They knew who we were and what we were doing. And this guy comes to me at the end when we're starting to wrap up, and he's like, "Here, take this." And it was a piece of the mine, like it was a piece of like a rock from the mine. And he's like, "You should have this." And I was like, "Can I have a purse or two?" And so I gave me one for him too, and I have it. It's very, it's the most important souvenir that I have from news.
That
Wow.
is really
Yeah,
cool.
that's fantastic. All right. Is talent that you learn from doing TV that like you hold with you now?
So many. So many good things, like writing lessons and public speaking lessons. But I think that the number one talent is I'm not afraid to knock on any doors. I'm not afraid to cold email anybody. I just, that fear goes away when you knock on a million doors in local. Like, just like, I'll go, I'll try. I'm not afraid of no.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Reaching out to somebody who I was talking on LinkedIn, I was like, hey, do you want to come on my little show? Because what's the worst they can say?
Right.
Who are you? No.
And I was like, hey, girl, this is like fun.
Well, Diana, this was great. What are we forgetting to ask you? Oh, the one thing we didn't get to cover in your last one was your headshot for NBC.
Now, I'm told there's a story behind this.
Yes. So, I mean, it's not, I've told you some doozies, so this is not going to be a big story by any means, but the story behind this headshot is this was when I first started at NBC. And remember, I was already super conflicted. I was already feeling like I was out of my element and I didn't belong there anymore. Could I really do this? This is the Today Show. And I show up. I'm in New York and I have my outfits ready to go. And then the person who was in charge of this whole thing of getting my headshots done hated my clothes. So I had to go with an assistant to J. Crew, and she picked out my clothes. So they put me in like a black suit and, a top or whatever. It's fine, right? Like it's typical headshot stuff, but that dinged my confidence because it was like, oh, my clothes were inappropriate and they're not suitable for what I'm going to be doing. And then I remember going to the photography studio and I'm smiling. And this same person was like, stop smiling. This is serious business. And I was like, okay, like, do I smize? Like, what am I supposed to do right now? Because I'm a smiley person. Like every other headshot I've ever had, like I'm even a little bit, I'm smiling, that's who I am. And I was just so sad. And you would think like it was like such a momentous day for me to have my NBC headshot photo taken and like I'm an official correspondent and like this is going to go on the website. And I remember like, okay, don't smile, wear these clothes, be somebody that you're not. And it comes through in the photo. It's like to the average person, they're like, oh, it's like a serious, professional shot. But if you know me, people are like, you look so sad in this headshot. Aww. And I was. And it was like,
here's a better photo.
I know. Like that's who I am. I'm a goofball, So it was like, I remember that day was also like a teachable moment for me. Like, don't ever let anybody make you somebody you're not. Like, be you. That's why like my website is called Diana Out Loud. Like I refuse to be anything else than me. Like I'm going to live out loud and I'm going to wear the clothes I want and I'm going to show up as myself, loudly and authentically. And if you don't like it, not a problem.
Well, how great is it now you get to do that?
What's that?
Your work now is allowing you to do that and they embrace that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not like kicking doors open wearing feather boas or anything like that, but it just, I'm definitely myself, and I just I don't know how else to be. I've never been good at like I think we all felt that pressure when we were young that we had to be that professional journalist, right? We had to like modulate our voice and we had to present, like literally I would practice like how am I going to stand on air and how am I going to tilt my head and all those kinds of things. And then gradually it hits you like, who are you right now? Like, are you or are you like who you think everybody wants you to be? And so it's just really nice to be unapologetically you. Like, there's nobody else like you, so why not be you?
Might as well. I bet it took a while though. Like, at what point in your career, or did it ever happen in your career? Or are you saying that you finally felt like that after you got out?
No, I would say that I felt really good at ABC being myself. I definitely was myself on those live shots and stuff. And I tried to be at Today's Show. Remember, it's like by the time that you're burned out, by the time like it's a performance at that point. Like when you're burned out and you have like nothing left in the tank, then whatever you are able to do is more of a performance. So I feel like, I did good work that year that I was there and I did good stories, but my heart wasn't in it. Like my whole self wasn't really in it. So and that started to kind of happen to me when I was in local that second time around. When I was pregnant, I was like in my head I knew like, oh, this is it. This I'm very, very close to the end of my career in news, and I was totally at peace with it by then. I was like, I slipped out of that station like a little ninja, like moved straight into a corporate communications career. And I was like, like literally, like I was like, ah, it was done.
All right. So Diana, tell everybody all the ways they can find you. So you mentioned your website, Diana Out Loud, and then you have your new podcast.
Yes. Yeah. I'm active on LinkedIn. Like I've kind of, I don't know, man, like social media was consuming a little bit too much of my life. And when you're forced to do it when you're in news, then it was like, as soon as I left news, like I left Facebook, I was like, I'm done. So most of my socials are private, like Instagram is private. Like if you send me a request, I'm 90% likely not even going to see it. So no offense to anybody. If you try like request me for Instagram, I'm not ignoring you. I literally don't even know you're asking to see. But I'm very active on LinkedIn. I used to be active on Twitter, not so much in the last 6 months.
A little bit, yeah.
Change. So come find me on LinkedIn, or me on Diana Out Loud. Our podcast is called Beyond the Newsroom. My friend Lou Dubois and I do it. It's also at beyondthenewsroom.com. But yeah, I'm always open to chat and meet good people like yourselves.
Yeah, you have great stories, Diana. We're so glad that you were able to come on and share them with us.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Well, my husband's probably believed that I'm telling him stories anymore. It's like the other people want to hear me.
You can always come and tell us. We can always be your audience then.
That is a funny thing.
Diana,
I want to talk a lot more than I need to.
It's true.
Yeah.
All right.
Well,
Bye,
thanks
everybody.
for having me on.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.